Is downsizing your house part of your retirement plan? Well, if so, there's 3 things that you need to know to plan for it properly. I've got that and more coming up. My name's Mike Bernard. I'm the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. Earlier in my career, this 20 years ago or so, frequently, I wouldn't say 50% of the time, but maybe 10% of the time, as we're getting to know a new client and starting to talk through all 6 areas of their financial life, when we talk about retirement, they would say, yep, we're saving up in our 401k, we've got this much, in an IRA, blah, blah, blah. And at retirement, or maybe when the youngest child is out of the house and on their own, we plan to downsize. And in that process, there should be another 100,000 or so that we'll be able to add to our nest egg. That was more common 20 years ago, 15 years ago. And for whatever reason, for the past 10 years or so, it hasn't been as common. But I would expect the way housing values have risen significantly since the pandemic, that more and more people are looking at their retirement plan, their strategy, looking at how much have I saved up into my 401k, into my traditional retirement buckets. And well, a way to pad those stats or a way to get a jolt is I'll probably downsize. My house has appreciated significantly, and therefore it's now a greater percentage of my overall net worth. And I'm going to use some of that asset to help with my retirement funding. And therefore, we're starting to see it more and more. I think it's going to be a trend that will continue. The plan of downsizing at or near retirement to help fund or add additional resources to your retirement nest egg. If that's your plan, or even if it's one that you're considering, you need to know these 3 things. First, downsizing doesn't always mean downspending. That's right. And this same principle, this was the very first thing that we shared even 15, 20 years ago when people would bring this up. So often, when you look at transitioning away from the larger house that you raise kids in, that, the 4 bedroom, the 5 bedroom, even the multiple bathrooms, the one that was very lived in, when you transition at retirement and you're envisioning a certain retirement, you're likely looking for a home that maybe is one level, okay, maybe is more updated. You maybe don't have as much gusto or firepower in you to be the weekend warrior, those sorts of things. And oftentimes what that means is your checklist or your must-have list for that house in retirement, that downsized house, has certain features that actually cause the price to be higher than what you'd expect. So be aware in this planning that we've just seen it. It can be a dangerous assumption to assume, well, the house that we raise kids in, the house that we had for that middle season of our career, sure, we'll be able to sell it for this much, and the house that we'll downsize to, we'll be able to purchase at this, and therefore there will be a difference in between that we'll be able to add to our nest egg. Oftentimes, that difference is much closer than what you think. Or, guys, we've even seen it where that downsized house actually costs even more than the house that you've lived in. Most people don't realize this. If I were to ask you, what is your biggest expense going to be in retirement, you're going to say healthcare. You're going to say, yeah, my medical costs. Well, take a look at this. Data actually shows that your largest expense is actually going to be housing. That includes utilities and property taxes and your mortgages and so on. So actually getting the house decision right in retirement could be even more important, at least based on this data, could be even more important than your medical decisions and getting your health insurance right. Therefore, making sure that you make this decision with full visibility on how this house decision or potentially downsizing is going to impact your financial life, that is crucial. And first, just be aware, it can be dangerous to assume that when you downsize, there will be extra dollars that you'll be able to use for your retirement spending. Second thing you need to know if you're planning on downsizing at or near retirement is you need to have a plan for the down payment. That's right, a plan for the down payment. I've done a few other videos on this just because it is uniquely important at this season where we are in the housing market, but especially this season in your life. When you're in your late 50s, early 60s, late 60s, near retirement, it's unlikely you want to move twice. And what I mean by that is listing your house for sale, making sure that you get, the right value out of it, and then moving into temporary living, whether that's moving in with the kids, which I've heard happen, or moving into an apartment somewhere, and then finding the right house with the right features that you want to spend retirement in. Oftentimes, it's not going to go that way. That's the best way financially because you're patient and you can wait for the right buyer, and then conversely, you're patient and you can wait for the right house at the right price when you're buying. Oftentimes at this stage of life, you have to do it in reverse, which adds risk, also can add some cost, and it adds a little bit of complexity with the down payment. Likely, you are buying a home first. And these hopefully go in very quick succession here, but you buy the house because you have a certain vision for what neighborhood or what type of house or what features, and so as soon as that comes on the market, you know it's in demand, and so you buy that, and then hopefully quickly you are able to list your house. But it's going to be very unlikely that you close at the exact same time, and therefore, where will you get your down payment from for the new house that you purchase? If you're thinking, well, I'll just pull it out of my retirement account, just know that that could come with it some significant tax consequences. If you're pulling it out of pre-tax accounts, that money is, as you withdraw, is technically taxable to you. And therefore, if you need a $100,000 down payment, you probably need to take out $150,000 or maybe even more to cover the taxes. And if you think, no, I'll just take a loan from my retirement account, you can't take a loan from an IRA. You've got a window of 60 days to withdraw the money and then put the money back in before it's taxable. But I have seen folks where they have shot for that being their plan, and they're just waiting for their house to sell, waiting for their house to sell, waiting for their house to sell, and their home does not sell and close. Their old home does not sell and close within that 60-day window, and all of a sudden those dollars became taxable. Know what your strategy is. Maybe it's a combination of a rollover from a 60-day rollover from an IRA or withdrawal from an IRA. Maybe it's establishing a home equity line of credit on your existing home before you go shopping for your future home, and therefore you're using some of that equity, which was going to be the plan anyway, using the equity in your existing home to make the down payment and the purchase of the new home. So get a plan in place prior to the act of shopping and looking for that downsizing house. And the third thing you need to be aware of if you're planning on downsizing as part of your retirement, you need to be aware of the taxes. Now, when you sell your primary residence, there is a primary home capital gain exclusion. There's an exclusion within the IRS that as long as it was your primary residence, and there's a definition for that, then as a single individual, you are able to exclude up to $250,000 of appreciation before the home would be taxable to you on your tax return. If you're married filing jointly, instead of $250,000, it's $500,000. So significant. That's a large amount. The reason why I'm bringing it up is number one, if you are, oh no, I'm safe. There's no way we're going to have that much gain between where we purchased the house, the improvements and money that we've put into it, and where we sell it. There's no way it will exceed $250,000 or $500,000. Well, great. Then just be aware that you will need to report this on your tax return, but it will fall underneath that capital that primary home capital gain exclusion, and you'll be all set, but you still need to report it. But for those of you where maybe you purchased the house a long time ago, and yeah, you put some dollars into it, but with how things have gone in the housing market, now you might be able to sell it for a considerable amount more than what you purchased it. You've got to be aware of these figures and how close you'll stand to, well, how much will be taxable, or are we close to that threshold? I would also say, if you purchased a house a long time ago when you were married and now you're suddenly single, either through a divorce that happened later in life or maybe the passing of your spouse, and now you've always thought, well, we've had a lot of appreciation because the house, we purchased it so long ago, and I've got $500,000 of capital gain exclusion. Now, because you're suddenly single, instead of $500,000, that could turn into $250,000 and could very much turn your house from, no, when we sell it, it's going to be tax-free, to now having some taxation to it. So plan ahead, be aware of those rules, work with your CFP so that you can have a plan for the taxes. So there you go. Those are 3 things you need to be aware of if you're if you're planning on downsizing as part of your retirement plan, downsizing from one house to another. But the big idea is this is a big financial planning decision. Impacts several different areas of your financial life, of the 6 areas of your financial life. So work with your CFP on this proactively. Say, I think this is something that we're going to consider, and work with them on building out how that impacts your retirement plan and what strategies exist for you to not only be aware of the 3 things that I just pointed out here, but all of the others as well. So work with your certified financial planner on that. If you don't have a CFP on your team, you can contact one on my team. Find us online, Korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with K, wisemoneyshow.com. You can find us there as well, or send us an email, info@korhorn.com. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.